So Goose, you won the school games in April, right? And you made like 32K in that month. I want to dive into that and your story as well. But let's begin with your school games experience. What was it like?
Oh man. Holy shit, what a whirlwind. The whole that this is the first time I've been asked that question actually. Um it was everything. Like imagine the most, I mean, you've been there, so you know, you're gonna know. Imagine the most pleasurable and painful experience at the same time. Like it's really impressive how much energy it requires to win a competition like that. Especially when you're on the floor. Like if you're leading the organization, you're anything that there's a hole in, you have to fill that hole. So if it's sales, you go do sales. If it's design, you go do design. At any point all day long, you're wearing 12 different hats and just like, what's missing? What's gotten fucked up? How do I fix that? And to be on that, like I think I lost a lot of hair that month because no, I don't think I know. Like there was more coming out of the brush just because like I did not expect to be on almost 24/7 for 30 days. And to have experienced that, it is very bizarre in retrospect to be like, wow, I did that in 30 days, made 30 whatever grand, right? A decent number for like a single, like a nothing to something company. And the only difference was pushing myself insanely for 1 month. So what that told me was, well, shit, I could have done that in February too. And it is fascinating to me that what they've set up and what they probably already know, Sam, Alex, and the rest, is that even though the incentivizations are really there, I mean, it's mostly for you, it's sort of to demonstrate to yourself that you're capable of a level of discipline that can actually bring you success in a really short amount of time. That was my biggest lesson from the whole thing.
What did you do during that month that you have never done before?
Oh man. Um, I like that you like pause there to pull up and like get another really big zinger in. That's a good question. Um, wow. What didn't I try? I mean, I think it all started with the launch because I had gone up to people a bunch of times, family and friends, and be like, "Hey, I'm making this thing. Are you willing to buy it?" No. Okay. How about if I give you $1,000 worth of value? What would that look like? What do you have that could be done? I had tried, like I had mentioned with you before, all these different platforms, different efforts. So I'd been there before, but for some reason, and maybe it was just the school games, I hadn't like gone 100% yet. I'd gone like 80% or 90%, but I didn't know that until that time. So here I am pounding the pavement with family and friends all the way, huge launch. Everyone sees it. And now, bam, now people are looking at the product. How good's the product? It's pretty good. So immediately from that point on, so I guess the first one I'd say is I used 100% of my resources. And then, which I hadn't really done before, but I didn't realize that. And then from that point on, it was crazy. I was so motivated to push myself that when I got tired, I didn't stop. And when I didn't want to sell, I sold. And when I didn't want to write, I wrote. And I guess I'm kind of answering the same question again, but it was like a little bit of everything. It was sort of that discipline part where even though it hurt, I was like, this is worth it. It's not worth it. It was necessary. And I would say, in summary, it's probably because of all of those things that I can now look back with so much fondness at all of the times that I had tried and failed, which is a lot. It's a big list. And be like, every single time that didn't work out, it gave me a little nugget that helped me on the launch. I just hadn't used all the nuggets yet.
What would you recommend though to people who like they're watching this and they're listening to you and like you've won the school games and like if somebody want to go for it themselves, like what would you recommend to them in terms of preparation
Mm.
and also during and kind of like how do you actually pull it off?
Yeah, great question. For me and for Captivate, probably the secret ingredient was PR and marketing, which I didn't know I was good at. So the lessons there, I guess, were more natural for me, but the big ones were, even though school is very business centric, it's hurting for a lot of emotional stimulation. So if you can share lessons and feelings that you go through, it really gets people excited. I mean, I kind of take it to extreme with like colors and stuff, but you don't really need to do that. If you can connect through words and like good copy, which, I think I got mostly lucky in that situation because the way I talk works well for people to digest, it seems like if I post something in the school community, and which is where we found like everyone, like I've mentioned to you, we didn't do any ads. Like, I think as far as I'm aware, we're the first victory that came solely off of school. No, to this day, none of my friends know what happened. I haven't posted anything on Instagram or Facebook or nothing. And I don't know. I just haven't decided. I haven't had enough time to even like consider that stuff. So if I were to tell someone in a few points what they would do, I'd say first, have your arrangement set up. You'd need to pick what your strengths are. You're going to need PR and marketing. You're going to need sales for sure. And you're going to need a good product. So you've got to make sure that offer is solid. And if it's not solid, make sure the other two are really good. You've got a system for selling, which is hard. I'd say that for me, being a creative, going to business, that's probably the hardest part. And then on the PR and marketing, which I know the most about, I would say first, any PR stunt you can do is exciting to everybody. For someone like our first stunt was making $8,000 in an hour, and that worked hugely. But the amount of preparation for that was 2.5 weeks, something like this. And that was the secret sauce to exposure, was the PR stunt, and then constant engagement with everyone within the main school community, which would be my other recommendation. Is even still, like I look on there today, you've got like maybe 10 personalities that are doing a really good job of posting relatively consistently exciting things, fun things, relatable things. And those people, we may not know it quite yet, but those people are kind of the beginnings of what celebrity will exist on school in the future, which, the platform is growing crazy and it's encompassing social media and everything else. So if you really analyze, like, what would a Thinkific Mighty Networks smashed with Instagram and Facebook and like 12 other things, what would that monster look like? And you're looking at it. So anyone that can fill those niches of interaction, excitement, ease of use, that's probably the last one. I'm sorry this question is so long. You're giving me good questions, so I'm like thinking about them as I'm talking about them. And then, if you're not the front guy doing making sure sales and your offer are down pat. And the last thing I would say, sort of as an add-on, is that what you're going to find, so this is a different answer to the question, but also really important. I kind of touched on it briefly. You'll start with just you, and you don't know yet what you don't know, which, unless you're like you, Max, you've already been running for a little bit and you're just like, you're scaling what you're doing rather than starting from scratch, was what we were doing. And when you're at that point, you're like, I think I could do this, just me and my buddy. And then 1 week in, you're scoring all kinds, and now you have to like fulfill and keep selling and keep advertising or whatever you're doing. And you need a team. You need a team fast. So you need people that are, most likely, if you're starting from scratch, you need people that are inspired on the same mission, because you won't be able to pay them yet. And there was no promise that it would even work. I just called up a couple of friends and I was like, hey, I think you'd be awesome for this. I need you to just do this thing. What do you think? And they're like, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. And that, if I knew that would be so important week 2, like so important, I would have started week 1, just like I started 1 month earlier almost in pre-sales. Those would be my answers, those 4 things.
Nice. So you mentioned before, right? You mentioned offer, that an offer is very important. And you made $8,000 in the first hour. So obviously you had like a really good offer. So what are like some key components of a really good offer that helped you and that you think can help other people as well?
Man, that's another home run of a question. It's probably the most outstanding question. I mean, yours is a bit more eloquent, but that's the question that we get most frequently in the community, which is, how the hell do I create a delicious offer? And the tough part is, for most of us, I think most of us, at least most that I interact with, you have to set yourself to the side for a moment and really understand that you're not talking, has nothing to do with you. You have to speak to the psychology of the average person, which also is you, but you can't look through your lens. You have to look at it from this other perspective. So what I mean by that is, if you want to make people more happy and cool and comfortable with their life, awesome. That's all right. But you can't sell that. No one buys that shit. It's fluffy and intangible. What you have to do instead is pick from the four things, which is health, wealth. You might have to help me here. I go over it all the time, but I forget it. Pain relief and relationships. Those are the four things that people actually buy. And if you're not selling one of those four things, you're shit out of luck. So it has to be something along the lines of a measurable amount of time, one of those four bits that you give them without a pain point that they usually exist. Like, there's 2 or 3 different recipes to it, but it's so hard and definitely it was for me. I mean, it took me like 6 months to even get there after doing tons of communities. I'm like, no, I think I feel it. It's going to be this way. No, you just don't fucking know. You don't know. Just shake yourself for a moment and pretend that this is going to be so hard that you're literally going to have to isolate your personal self, pick from those 4, and then understand that doesn't mean you don't do what you wanted to do. I mean, even Captivate, and you probably find this too with your community. I think most of what we're doing is emotional management. And every now and then there's like a proper business question, if then this. And that's not what I would have expected. It's probably not what most people expect. But they come in because they know that you're going to give them this much more money or make them this much more fit. They get 2 more abs because they're hanging out with you. Whatever that thing is from the list of 4. And if you're able to bring them in with what they want, you can give them what they need. Because you included, like everyone here, I don't mean like you, but whoever's listening to this, but you also as well, everybody. We oftentimes don't know what we want. We're too close to our needs to be able to see them well enough. So the number one part of the offer is realizing they have to speak to the psychology and then give them what they need from the process, which may be mostly different than the offer, but the tools that lead you to the result that they're looking for.
So you're basically leveraging the thing that they want. You use that as a hook to kind of lure is a bad word, but you use that as like the hook that you fish for clients with the thing that they want.
Yeah.
And then when they buy that offer, then you give them that, but you might also give them some other stuff that they actually need, that they don't know that they need.
You will definitely be giving them stuff that they didn't know that they needed. Yeah, that's absolutely part of the process. I mean, prior to April, had been working with Ted Carr, and we had a call. We had one call together directly, and that was it. That was all I needed, basically, for a little bit of a slap in the face. It was like, no. There's these 4 things. You worry about these 4 things, and that's your focus. Don't try and do 3 different things. Just focus on the one. Do the thing. And for some reason, I finally listened this time, and so I can express from firsthand experience that, yeah, what you said and what I said there is probably as close to true with an offer as you can get.
Nice. All right. If we turn back the time a bit then, and if we focus on Goose, like you, the individual, like why did you get started in entrepreneurship? And like, how did that happen?
I just made a post about this recently, so I suppose I can talk about it more openly, because I really don't. I don't talk about it. The biggest, you can hear it in my voice. The biggest, most significant thing that happened was that I was kind of just goofing off, being a kid, not really having any, like, no, everyone in my family was lawyers and doctors, or like longshoremen or something. But my dad's side that I was spending most of my time with was lawyers and doctors. I saw that they weren't what I would consider happy, but they were super hell bent on making sure all of the kids were like following that path. Do everything we did so that you can get what we have because it's great. Fuck no, it isn't. That looks miserable. This was me at like, I don't know, 10 through 19. But I didn't really know what to do with it. I was just waiting for life to happen. And when I was 19, my mom died and a bunch of stuff changed all at once. It was the catalyst to the rest of my life. And from that point on, I realized how important self-initiation was. So that was like all I did from then on was if I had a wild idea, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do that. I remember at one point, I mean, I'm kind of jumping around here, but I'll jump forward for a second. This is an example. I had some success with a company that was going on in China. And I was like, I think I want to get electric cars. And some of my buddies were like, you mean an electric car? I said, no, electric cars. And they're just like, this is stupid. You're never going to do stuff like that. Not knowing me. If I have an idea, I'm going to do it. And so I bought 3 electric cars. I customized all the rims. I got all of the each one had a different color racing stripe, but they were all bright orange cars. And so me and my buddies would just like cruise around town, all right behind each other. And it just looked awesome. And it was a ton of fun. So go back to the beginning. When my mom died, I stopped cutting my hair. I got a motorcycle. I broke up with my girlfriend of 4 years. And I started my first nonprofit, which I think still operates at the university. It was a sustainable business nonprofit. I was studying environmental studies and business. And I learned nothing. I didn't learn a thing there. I dropped out with 1 class remaining. And from that point on, it was just like business failure, business failure, business failure. It just kept happening. And I just wouldn't stop. I don't know why. Eventually, I hit a win, and it was a big win. It was with my buddies from college, these dudes from China, which just have like stupid money. It's just unbelievable. So I went over to China and I'm just like, the opportunity guy. Sure, yeah, let's do this. Just kind of saying yes to every opportunity. And I started doing real estate stuff. I wasn't the real estate guy. I would connect the money. So I'd recruit the money. They liked me. And then I would put it into a project with some other partners there. And about 2 years into it, as I'm living in China, all over the place. China's a weird place, man. My partners took the accounts, all of it. I was paying for everything up until then. So I was left with all the debt and I lost all the accounts that were paying it off, including all the savings. So I lost about $360,000 in 1 month. It was gone. So I lost all my stuff. And so I started over with this mindset of, I didn't really like that to begin with. I enjoyed taking every opportunity that came my way. Like that's definitely me. But I didn't like the monotony and the soullessness of real estate. Sorry if you do real estate, but the people I was working with did not. I was like, you want to do solar panels? They're like, fuck you. Okay. And so it was painful. And I realized if I could try that hard at doing something that I kind of still didn't really feel natural with, like even myself having that much wealth so quickly, I was kind of a douche. So I realized, why don't I try putting that kind of effort into something that I like? So I started learning how to make videos and stuff. That was where I started. I traveled to Peru with some friends. My family at the time was like, the hell are you doing? Take these bastards to court. This is your money. I'm like, I think this is like, there were 2 parts to me. There was my logical side and my hippie side. My logical side was like, I don't want to spend that amount of time, energy, and resources trying to get back money from people in China. Like, come on, our countries don't even get along. Then the second one was like, probably if nothing else, on a spiritual level, this is kind of the universe saying like, hey, maybe consider changing. Here's an opportunity, like an expensive opportunity, but still one all the same. And I'm glad I did. I walked away from all that. I got a camera. I started recording on YouTube and made a bunch of stupid videos for like family and friends. Some of them are still up there, but they're all awful. I mean, some people like them, but it was just a good learning experience for about 2 years. And at the end of that process, which started about 5 years ago, I started community after community after community, just like I was doing with the businesses before. But now I had this like process of winning, losing, and then, well, I mean, a bunch of small losses, then winning, then losing, then losing. And I still had that vigor because there's nothing more satisfying for me. There's nothing more satisfying than seeing the results of the labor that you do in the eyes of someone that you're working with. And even more than that, I would argue, is having a team with you that's building something with you. So for example, and I'll end with this. It's kind of deep though, so if it's weird, just like, ignore me. There is this philosophy I have where, and maybe it's got an official name, I don't know. On the physical level, you can't really create anything, but you can bring about readjustments and forms of stuff. You can make buildings, you can make people, or at least women can, and you can do these things, and that's beautiful. There's a power and a strength to that. But there is a higher form of it that I enjoy, like higher for me, which is being able to, like you and me, sit down and say, hey, I've got an idea. It's purple. And you go, I do too. It's leafy, right? And eventually we have enough of these back and forth. This thing that we envisioned that doesn't exist might actually someday exist. And that is fucking bonkers to me. To be able to sit down with people that are excited and inspired and make something that doesn't exist from their minds. What? That's awesome. And to me, that's like my favorite thing to do, is to create that kind of stuff with other inspired people and be able to have that thing, whatever it is, alter the lives of someone else for the better. And those two things are so ingrained in me that I cannot see myself doing anything else other than, like, if school games didn't work, I'd just be doing it again somewhere. I'd just still be doing it. So at the end, maybe also part of it is blind stupidity. Could very well be that too.
Awesome. When were you like able to make a full-time income from this thing that you found that you were passionate about? And like, what was that thing that you were passionate about that you first could make a full-time income from?
Oh, good question. At 24, I got my first property, and I was super jazzed on that. It took 3 years to make it profitable. I mean, it's a great Airbnb now, but at the time, holy crap! I don't know if you have any Airbnbs, but I got a property with 6 units. It was supposed to be like, here's the crazy part. I have kind of a soapbox on this, so I'm going to give you that and then finish answering your question. I got this place from these lawyers from California, and they were selling at a loss because no one liked the driveway. The driveway was so steep, and that was my favorite part. It was like an adventure every time you were getting into the house or getting out of the house. There's a 6-story place overlooking like the whole valley. This is in my college hometown in Eugene, Oregon, and I was like, I don't know, this seems like a cool opportunity. It's a single family unit or house or whatever you call it. But it's huge. There's so much space in this place. There's no way. Like, how many dogs would you have to have in this place to make it like filled? I don't know. So I was like, I'm just going to install a few more doors and I'm just going to hang out with my buddies. And so that's what I did. And I charged rent. And then when everyone was graduating or dropping out and doing their thing, I just moved all of that to, people from like Craigslist and stuff. And that was tough. And I had to learn how to become like how to be a property owner at that point. So here's my soapbox. What's crazy? What I had to learn at the beginning, there are two things that I had to learn that got me super excited and made my first success. I'm going to use the example of real estate. The first thing that I learned was that if you price things too low out of the goodness of your own damn heart, you're going to cause yourself trouble. It's like giving rent to free, a free rent to your buddies. You want to because they're your friends. And yet, in every instance that I have run into and people that I know, if you give away things as gifts at that level, or you lower the prices so that so everyone can enjoy the thing you're doing, what you end up getting is a shittier client. And that was what we found was every time, and it took me 2 years to figure this out. When I started making my prices market rate or above, we got awesome people consistently across the board, and they liked it. If I brought it underneath, 5 out of every 7 people would come in and be like, "You don't offer free shampoo? What? Where's that on the listing? I didn't put that." Like, no, I just enjoy the place. I put flowers everywhere, you know? And that was crazy to me. Was there is if you don't value the thing in some metric, they cannot value it either. It's like a human psychology thing. That was crazy. That took a while. And the other thing that I learned was that, and this is the soapbox, I finally got to it. It's crazy to me. I bought this place for, it was like 300 grand plus upgrades. So it was like 350, 400, something like that. And this was a cash purchase. So I didn't have a mortgage on this place. And the crazy part to me was like, for a couple of years, the property taxes on this were like 7 or 8 grand. I was like, wait, I thought I bought it. I'm renting this place still? Holy crap. Like, imagine being a family inside of a house. You've got 400 grand in cash. You get it. And now you've got to pay 8 grand a year to have it, to keep it, or else they'll take it from you. And I was like, wow, what a fascinating situation to be a property owner, but still not really have the freedom that property owners are supposed to have. If I wasn't renting that place out, it wouldn't be an asset. It was only an asset because it was making money beyond its expenses. So it was almost like having a car. And understanding that for me and the decisions that I made as a consequence were huge. So those two things were the main things that I learned that could probably be applied for most things. But that's what I learned with real estate, with my own personal real estate. And still to this day, the Airbnb runs and does awesomely.
Interesting.
But I had to overcome those. Weird, right?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, like I had no idea about this story. That's why it's so interesting to like hear what you've been doing up until this point. Like on your entrepreneurial journey though, like what would you say has been like the most like challenging moment, you know, where you were like you didn't think that it was gonna work out, or you were down at the bottom type of thing? Like, have you had any moment like that? And if so, what was it?
Oh, well, yeah, definitely. I think it was the moment that I lost $360,000. It was like in 1 month, month and a half. And I mean, I don't know if you can feel much lower than that. Like, it wasn't all just my money either. My dad had put in, my girlfriend at the time had put in, and all of a sudden it was all stolen. And I go, oh, what do I do? So like, I have nothing. And now because I have encouraged these people to put into the pile, now they're all upset to me. To this day, the only time that my dad has ever been close to being like, yeah, okay, we can look into investing something or working on something together was in school games. It was so damaging to my relationships that it's taken years to heal from that. So, you know, my relationship ended around this time. I mean, for lots of reasons, but this didn't help. Like now your boyfriend's no longer got any money to his name, right? And that was easily the lowest point in my life, where it felt like everything I had been building was a sham. The relationships that I had were a sham, and everything that I thought I wanted was artificial. And so it was a lot of me sitting quietly at that time in my life, trying to get out of it a positive part, because even amidst all the pain, I knew for sure that there was a reason. I really believe in like Hermetic philosophy, but before I knew there was a name for it, I was just like this person. So I've always had the attitude that things are usually happening for a reason, and if you can't see it, you're probably not looking hard enough. So I concluded that at that time, that was probably not the path that I wanted for myself. And I needed a pretty big jolt to realize that. And I think in retrospect, after my mom's passing, this was probably the second most significant thing in my life. Another low, right? Two lows, one right after another. I mean, in my lifetime terms. And both of those, even though they were shitty, were character defining for me, and gave me, in a lot of ways, the qualities that were what let me win in school games.
Yeah, that's normally what happens, right? Like your lowest low is normally what helps you and kind of teaches you and kind of forms your character, so that from that you become better in many aspects to then perform even better on the next thing that you
exactly
dive into.
After your lows, you usually, how long of a turnaround did you usually have before you were like on another high?
Are you asking me like how long it normally takes before, like after low, to kind of get back up on the horse? Yeah. Like I feel like in the beginning, the lowest, obviously, like we can go through, like having somebody close to you pass away, or like there are different levels to like pain you can go through, obviously. But I feel like the more painful stuff you go through, which I feel like is super powerful about entrepreneurship, is like the more painful stuff you go through, it hardens you in a way, or you're not afraid of pain in the same way as you were before when you start to experience pain. So it makes it easier to just overcome stuff. And then when you've been through enough pain, you're like, that you can handle it. So it's not that scary anymore. So to answer your question, I think it takes a little bit longer maybe in the beginning, but then when you're used to it, it's a bad word, but when you've been going through it, it's a lot easier to like go through it and kind of handle it.
I totally agree with you on that. It does get easier over time. And actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because I don't know if you have like pain habits that you do, but like whether it's working out, even, or for me, a big one was cold showers. Like 2 years ago, even, you asked me to do a cold shower, I'd fucking run. But now, like, if I'm having a rough day, I'll take a cold shower, because that pain, literally, like it feels like an echo where it used to be on this like very, very painful. Now it's more of like my mind experiences it in a different way. It's more subtle, but the pain's still there. It just helps encourage me. Like I come in with a fresher feeling after having experienced some discomfort. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I like how I like to look at it is that you can't never escape pain. Like if you want to live if you're trying your best to escape pain and like live super comfortably, like for example, you don't want to go and work out and just want to sit on a sofa and eat potato chips all day. It's going to feel really, really good right now, but in the future, you will most likely experience some pain in terms of illness or being stiff or not being healthy. Or you can just go through the pain today of actually doing the thing that you don't want to do, and then you enjoy the benefits later. So there's no escaping pain. Your pain is always going to be there, but you can choose your pain, which is very powerful.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I think that was the biggest shift that happened most recently in my life, was deciding, one, I was going to surround myself with different people. I didn't want to be the wealthiest or smartest person in the room anymore, for example, like this kind of thing. And the other one was, which I just kind of passively just like, yeah, whoever's there is there. So I wasn't really taking control of that. And the second one was, yeah, voluntary discomfort, because it was weird that as a consequence, like in this weird, in this bizarre way, the more discomfort you would subject yourself to willingly, the less would be placed on you from the outside world. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. How has your life changed though after going through pain, but also after going through your entrepreneurial journey, like in a positive way? Like what fruits have you been able to kind of reap from your labor? And was it worth it?
So
Yeah.
I'm a weird guy. I think you're a pretty weird guy too. I think we're the kind of people that probably wouldn't be that happy with it any other way. And I think it's a blessing and a curse, because if you have it in you that you know you need to be building something or a part of something that you've built in order to feel a sense of fulfillment, maybe even just from the process, not the destination, which is most likely a truer happiness. I think there is no other version that I could have found that. Like, let's say the thing in China didn't pan out, I probably would have found myself in a pretty unhappy situation. Successful by most standard terms, quicker, I guess, but not fulfilled. And that's probably the backbone of most of the offers that we're trying to make anyways, is like, you want a sense of fulfillment, and you can't really chase it directly. It's like happiness. You want to be happy. Okay, great. Where's the happiness pill? Maybe there is one. I don't know. But the point is that if you're chasing these things directly, it doesn't work out. It has to be done because this looks interesting. That seems fun. And at least that's the way that I'm programmed. I imagine the same is for you. So the biggest fruits of my labor, I would probably say, is that pain hurts less. I mean, I'm not telling the universe just like smite me, but pain does hurt less. And there's also an element of self-satisfaction. Like, I'm comfortable with who I am because of the failures and the successes that I have, but I'm actually a little bit happier because of the failures, because I can look back and for whatever reason, I didn't stop doing the thing, even after so many losses. And that makes me feel pretty comfortable, pretty happy with who I am, where without the entrepreneurial journey, I don't think I'd feel that, or at least I wouldn't feel it to the degree that I know I do here. There is just something so fulfilling, even through the miserable times, of knowing that this thing that you see in your head is somewhere out there. You just need to keep working in that direction.
Have you had any like mentors on your journey? And if so, did that help you a lot? And is that something that you recommend to people to use as well?
Yeah.
Or not?
I had one mentor that I can think of. The rest of the time they were friends. This guy, he's the one that helped me run the real estate operation. He was prior to 07, the collapse of 07, he was a very wealthy and successful real estate guy, but overstretched, I suppose. And so when everything fell, his whole things fell as well. But he had, both of them were $100 million a year companies, one mortgage, one real estate. And the guy knew his stuff. I mean, he was easygoing and goofy and fun to hang out with. But when the shit hit the fan in China and the projects didn't work out in the States, I had been covering the costs for him and his family for a year at that point. It was about 80 grand. Because one property that we were doing was like an 80 grand payout for him. So immediately it's paid back. But the money went, all of the projects fell apart. Like, it was just a series of dominoes. And so he filed bankruptcy on me. And, I can't hate on him for that, but I haven't talked to him after that period of time. Because this was someone that I looked up to and I trusted, and kind of left me out to dry. And that was the last mentor that I think I had from that point on, it was past experience or re-experienced lessons that I hadn't quite learned right the first time. Because sometimes I have to fuck up a few times the same way to finally like slap myself. Oh, obviously there's something to learn here. And
Yeah.
so it's tough. I feel like I want to say yes. I want to say that that's a good one. And I'm not speaking from personal experience here, that it's a bad thing. I actually think it's probably a very good thing. I would love to have had more mentorship along the way. But if you're able to, I think it could be a huge asset. And I know plenty of people. For example, Antonio, he's been a huge wealth of advice for us. He's got 2 communities on the #1 Discover page, and he gives us lessons all the time that are just like, wow, that's just fantastic. Something you can only get from years of experience doing what he's doing. And so I see that coming around again, where I may have mentors again in my life, which I'm totally open to. So I would say, 1, yeah, I think that's a really good thing to have. 2, not all of their advice is what you should take. It worked for them, but it doesn't mean it will all work for you. And 3, everybody's people. Everybody poops. So there's no grace to wealth or celebrity that you don't already have yourself.
What advice would you give to people who are just starting out? Like, it doesn't have to be about school, but like you just want to start out to like escape your job and like make some money online.
Wow.
And like do what you like. Like, what recommendations would you give to those people?
It's not easy. I've never seen an easier place though than school. I mean, I don't. You can look at the school games. There are so many people that explode to success seemingly overnight, and we're one of them. Like a 5-10 year overnight success. But but you find it in a place like this. School is very unique in that way. I'm sure you would also agree. And for those starting out, I would probably say, you don't know what you don't know. It's going to be tough. If it's not a mentor, then get coaches. Coaches are what made it breakthrough for me, because I feel the pain of losing the money. So the advice and the recommendation that I get, I'm like seriously considering. It's not free. If I have skin in the game, like for starting, that was the only thing that held my feet to the fire at the beginning. And I would probably say, you got to make sure you've got your own fortitude within yourself, because you got to love what you're doing, because you're going to have to do it so hard for so long to make it work most of the time, that you're going to have to make sure that when you don't want to, it's as easy as possible. You're not trying to do something you don't want to do. And that being said, you're probably not going to be getting a whole lot of support. Families are notorious for not supporting this kind of thing. Partners even. And I've had experiences with that myself, that it is incredibly challenging to be the only one that wants to see you succeed in the way that you want to succeed. And you will have to be willing to just cry it out some nights or days. I had a good cry 3 days ago. And I was like, oh man, I feel way better after that. But it was because there are moments you just feel alone. And they're just emotions. I mean, they come and they go. So you experience them, you do what you got to do, but you can't hold on to those things. So as long as you're loving what you're doing, you're not relying on the support of others. I mean, it's nice to have. It'd be great if you had it. But if you don't, don't break. And make sure that you've got good coaches, teachers, or mentors around you. Kind of your earlier point. That's probably what I would say.
Nice. Yeah, I just watched the interview that Evelyn Weiss did with Sam Ovens, and they just released it. And he said in that interview something that you just touched upon, which is you have to believe in the thing that you're doing, because most people will not believe in it. And if you don't believe in it, then it's then you're going to give up. So it's you have to believe in it at least yourself. to stick to it for the long term, and then enjoy it as well.
Yeah. Max, when you were building up your whole system, did you find that there was a lot of natural support, or did you have to earn it?
Yeah, I feel like ever since I started to kind of break free from my friend groups and all of that, and like I started doing this online thing, everybody thinks that you're weird. They're like, what is this guy doing? He's going away from the pack and do his own thing. So pretty much immediately I got used to that people are like, they're not gonna believe in you. And like in the beginning, when you're used to having a bunch of friends around you who you are accepted into that group, and then you go away from that group to do your own thing, you learn pretty quickly that you will have to become your own supporter and don't really care what other people think. Or you're still gonna care in the beginning what people think of you and what you do. Over time, you start to care less, but at least over time, you don't let that affect your behavior. So even if somebody thinks something of you, you're still gonna do it because you believe in it, and you will not get affected. Your behavior will not get affected about what other people think. But yeah, like I guess I'm just getting used to that. That most people like either don't understand what you do, or like couldn't care less about it because they're so busy about their lives, and I'm not blaming them at all. So you just have to just like believe in your own thing, and then eventually, if you try hard enough, if you like it and it actually helps people, then people will start to like kind of appreciate what you're doing. But that comes later, not in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's been my experience.
To hammer that point in, it's so interesting how similar all of our experiences have been in the cafe group. That's a lot of those people have the same thing. And I haven't even talked that deeply with a bunch of them. I'll round this off with a quick story hammering your point home, or I guess our point home, if that's okay.
Please do.
This whole time that I've been going on this entrepreneurial journey, I haven't really had much support from my family. And by much, I'm putting it nicely. There was, from one of my uncles, a bounty. He gave me a bounty to return to college and finish my last remaining classes. And it was big, a lot of money. And to this day, there are even still friends of mine who ask me, why would you not? It's right there. Why would you not do the thing? And to this day, every time we talk, which is not often, I was too rainbow of a sheep to hang out with the family. To this day, anytime we talk is, so when are you going back to college? And I'm like, man, this sucks. And so there's just a part of my family that I just don't interact with. I'm too different. I'm too out of it. But it's interesting that after a while, I realized something that might help people listening to this that are on their journey, which is no one's immune to, just like with, the 4 things that you have to sell in order for people to buy. Families, they're just people too. And if I imagine being the guy, like this family, these family members that I'm talking about, being the guy that like did everything he was supposed to do, got all the good grades, went to college, fucking killed it, went to law school, fucking killed it, and then now you've got it. You've got the white picket fence, the family, the fancy car, and no time to yourself for years. And I look at that, and then I imagine being this kind of person and then seeing, a family member of yours succeed at something stupid, like doing stuff online and being like wearing funny colors or traveling around or something like that. If I said, nice, good job, I approve, it's complicated, because if I was that person, I would feel like I had now acknowledged that I could have done it differently. And that's not a good feeling. So it's almost protective to not self-protective, to not encourage a family member or a close loved one to succeed in what they're doing if it's a easier or more satisfying or more appealing from the outside looking success than the one that you have. And when I finally absorbed that
Mhm.
fact that it was probably more self-protective or self-defensive maybe than an attack, I was able to not take it personally anymore. And since that point, it hasn't bothered me that the families never really understood, wanted to understand, or been supportive of what I'm doing.
Mm. Yeah. It's interesting, right? That entrepreneurs, it's that's why it's easier to connect with other entrepreneurs, I feel like, because most of us has been going through a similar story to this in our own way. Because you just have to go through pain, but that's what makes it fun as well. Like, it makes it real. Like, you do what you want to do. You're not trying to fit into a box that somebody else created for you. Um, so yeah, thank you for sharing. And
Yeah.
as a final question that I have to you, Goose, is like, where can people learn more about you and find you online? Like, where should they go if they want to connect with you or learn what you do?
That's a really great question. I mean, I suppose at some point I'll start using my Instagram again. I hate social media, but I love school, so I don't know what that says exactly. But if you want to find me, I mean, certainly you can find me in the either in the regular school community or in Captivate. But on Instagram, probably. I mean, let me check what my username is right now. I'm honestly not sure. I think it's like Rainbow Goose or something. Let me see. It's it's Rainbow Goosey. Look at that. I think someone took Rainbow Goose, so that's me right there. So yeah, if you want to follow, it's just like stupid posts. Most of the time, it's people that make posts for me because I just don't like doing it. I'll usually add the captions. The captions are mine, but that's about it. So I'll probably jump into that more. Um, I think for now, I don't like the distraction, and maybe you can relate to this as well. I don't like the distraction of um, this is a really big moment for me to finally have something that's working and finally be interacting with people that are at that level or greater with the same degree of enthusiasm, where I've usually just been in a what feels like an isolated chamber screaming to myself, am I crazy? And it almost feels like it would be sacrificing that moment of bliss to just be shouting it to the world right now. So it'll come, but just not yet. But you can find me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Goose. I really enjoyed this conversation and I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, same, man. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it too.